Hello there, my name is Alaydriem, and welcome back to another Minecraft Bedrock tutorial with your favorite cardigan-wearing Minecraft character. And today in this episode, I'll be showing you how to build this leather, steak, and sugarcane farm for your Minecraft Bedrock 1.19 world. Now, you're probably thinking right about now that that's an odd combination worth of things right there, but the purpose of this farm is not just to give you infinite food, but also to help you make books. If you have need for making a ton of bookshelves, making lecterns, making new chiseled bookshelves, or even just gathering enough books for librarians for your trading hall, this is definitely a farm you're going to want to have. This farm is super easy to build, super straightforward, and you can maximize the rates by building as many of these sugarcane towers as you want to ensure that you have a constant supply of both sugarcane and the other resources here. This farm has two modes that you can exploit. The first will give you a ton of cooked steak, and the other will exploit the looting 3 enchantment on Trident Killers, which means that you can have almost 1,700 pieces of steak, over 900 pieces of leather, and about 72 pieces of sugarcane per hour per level that you have. So this is a very, very, very efficient farm if you build out all of the various components, and it requires absolutely no bone meal. And in terms of mechanics, this relies pretty much exclusively on mooshroom spawning on mycelium, and we just basically have a big tower in the sky that shoves them down into a central chute where we apply tridents with the looting 3 enchantment. So very simple, very straightforward to build, and also very survival friendly. You aren't going to have any creepers blowing up this because you have it on a mooshroom island. So with all that said, let's go ahead and dive straight into the tutorial. So to get started with this build, you're first going to want to find a mooshroom island, and you're going to want to find one that is decently sized. Don't find yourself one that only has like a couple blocks around it. Find yourself a nice big one, and you can just plop this down somewhere in the middle. We're going to take advantage of the mooshroom farms here to spawn these adorable little things that you just saw pack spawn right here. And you're going to find the highest spot of this build, and you're going to scaffold up about 50 blocks. So right now we are on Y level 78 here. Kind of picked the topmost hill that I could find, and we should go up to somewhere around Y125. Adjust the coordinates for your world and where you are, but you're going to want to go up just about 50 blocks here or so. Once you have built up about 50 blocks, you're going to go ahead and make yourself a 2x4-ish platform here. I'm just going to build that up really wherever. It really doesn't matter. Then you're going to grab yourself some double chests and place down some double chests here. Again, the orientation doesn't matter. We're going to go ahead and build ourselves a Trident Killer. So if you haven't seen that tutorial, you can just follow along here real quick. We're going to start by placing down 4 hoppers going into that chest. Place down 2 fence posts and then put a minecart hopper right here. And you're going to give that minecart hopper a little push into the corner here after you delete this rail. So as you can see here, you can kind of shimmy this here into the corner, and that will siphon down all the materials from the blocks above it equally into all 4 of the hoppers that we have. Next, you're going to want to grab yourself some packed ice and place it right down here on top of this. And then we're going to place down solid blocks here in this orientation on the leftmost face. Then go ahead and grab yourself some pistons, place them on top of those blocks. Then you're going to swing around here to the front, and we're going to build our clock system. So we're going to make ourselves a little cross shape here, knock out the center. Over here, place a block there. And then we're going to grab ourselves a torch on this side, dust, and then a redstone repeater just like so. Make sure you grab a lever. The lever will help you not go clinically insane from the amount of ticking that this farm generates. Coming over here, we're going to place a block, repeater, and then we're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other remaining faces. So right over here, we're going to have a repeater with a piece of redstone dust. And then coming over here, we're going to grab temporary blocks there, repeater in this position, redstone dust, and then right under here with the dot facing towards this repeater, you're going to place down an observer. So not right there, right there. So as you can see over here, the face is going to be lit up by that redstone torch. And now when you give this lever a flick, you should see these pistons circling around in that fashion. Next, we're going to build out our AFK platform. And since it's a mooshroom island, the only thing we really need to worry about is the occasional phantom spawn. So don't need to super well arm this. So build yourself out a little 2x3 platform. And then we're going to enclose this all in with solid blocks. So go ahead and place that here and here. Go behind each of these pistons and place down a trapdoor. And then come around to this side. And we're going to place a trapdoor right on top of this temporary block that we placed here. Go ahead and place another trapdoor here. This isn't a hostile mob spawner, so we don't need to worry about anything. We will get the occasional piece of XP coming through here, but we really don't need to worry about any hostile mobs jumping out. So once you have that in place, you can use this trapdoor right here to activate the lever, and you can verify that this system works. And we are done with our Trident Killer, with the exception of some water buckets that we need to pour in this, and this position. And you should see this water do this really mesmerizing swirl mechanic. And towards the end, we will throw in our Trident. We aren't going to throw it in right now, though, because we need to build up the rest of this farm. With our Trident Killer system now in place, go ahead and grab yourself a lot of glass blocks, and we're going to go up another 35 or so blocks, and you're just going to create a ring around our Trident Killer, and this is going to act as our drop chute. All of our mobs that are going to spawn up in the platform up above will fall down into the chute and fall down into our Trident Killer or into our lava blade, which will cook all of our meat, which I will explain here just in a little bit. But you're going to want to go around this entire frame on all four sides and just build this up as I have demonstrated here. Now that we have our drop chute built, we're going to build ourselves a 16 by 16 platform, which is inclusive of the two center spaces here in the middle of our drop chute. So we are counting out from one of the faces over here. We're going to start 1, and then we're going to extend out another 6 more. That will give us 8. And then we are going to fill in this entire platform with mycelium blocks. It's really important that we use mycelium blocks here because mycelium is the only block that mooshrooms will spawn on. They will not spawn on anything else, and they only spawn in this biome. So we're going to need to make sure that this is all mycelium up here. So with this 18 by 18 area now fully built out, we're going to wrap this with a single layer of sandstone or really any other kind of solid block of your choosing. And this is to discourage mooshrooms from falling off the edge when we start spawning them in. So again, you can use any solid block that you want. I'm just using sandstone because it looks super great in this texture pack. But as you can see here, we now have an 18 by 18 inner spawn area with a 20 by 20 total border inclusive of those center two panels. Now, for practical purposes, we also need to light up this inner area, and there's a couple ways that you can go about this. You can use either shroom lights, or you can use glowstone, or a whole bunch of torches, or really any other light source. For practical purposes and for strictly aesthetics, I am putting the shroom lights as this first layer, and then for farm purposes, I am putting shroom lights here in this middle area. Shroom lights are very easy to get, so if you wanted to place those in, that makes it very easy. You can also align the outer edge with torches, or you can put shroom lights on top of this row. Either solution is completely viable. Again, just for aesthetics in this tutorial, I'm going to align this bottom layer up with shroom lights as we have shown here. Regardless of how you decide to light up this farm, you're going to want to next carve in this alternating grid pattern as shown here into our mycelium, and then you're going to want to plop down some soul sand into each of these spaces. Now, for this grid pattern, you're just going to alternate every other row. Pick a corner. It's not going to be symmetrical. That's completely okay. And you're just going to pop holes just like you have shown here. You end up with this kind of checkerboardy thing, and then here in the middle of the shroom lights, just continue the pattern as it would be. Don't replace the shroom lights here in the middle. We need that to light the center of our farm. And then, as I mentioned, you're going to want to fill in each of these holes with your soul sand that you picked up earlier. We're going to be using the soul sand in order to create kind of a very, very tricky bubble elevator mechanic that's going to force all of our mushrooms that are in the center area up to our top of our farm, where they will eventually be sucked in down this main hole. Now, you're going to want to place down a temporary block on top of each of these pieces of soul sand because we're about to do some really crazy water logging mechanics, and this will prevent that from happening. Again, you can use any block that you want, but sandstone is really easy to acquire, and it also has the added benefit of being very quick to break, which means you aren't going to be spending a lot of time with it. So consider placing sandstone here, but you can use any type of block that you want. Once you have those temporary blocks in place, you're going to want to line the rest of this mycelium with some of these blocks that we have right here. And this is scaffolding. And you want to cover every single space with this scaffolding. So with our scaffolding now in place, you should have a design that looks something like this. Yours may differ ever so slightly depending upon what the orientation you have. Next, we're going to grab ourselves some solid block of your choosing, or if you choose to put your light source here, you can put it on this top layer. We're basically just going to create another layer right here to start placing down water. So go ahead and make yourself an infinite water source up here of your choosing, and we are going to place water buckets down in each of these corners as I have shown here. And as you'll notice, this water doesn't quite reach all the way, so you're going to want to send out 6 blocks over here, and you're going to fill that in. And once you have that filled in, you should have something that's going to look sort of like this. Basically, the absolute dead center middle of the farm is going to have kind of a line going down it, and you're going to have water sloping in, and it's going to look like this. You should see that right dead center in the middle of the farm. That will ensure that water doesn't overflow, it won't fall into your drop chute, and it will make the whole farm work. So again, this is 6 over in each direction, and this should be fully filled in water sources with the exception of those 2 middle blocks. When you're doing this, make sure that you're moving in from the outside to the inside. If you start on the inside and kind of go out towards the edges, that may cause problems with your water source starting to fill up, and it becomes a real pain to clean up a little bit later. But once you have all your water in place, you should now have nice flowing water as shown here. And now this is going to be the tricky part. You're going to want to come over here with your water buckets, and on top of each of these, you're going to knock out this temporary block, and you're going to place water on top of that soul sand. You do not want to place it anywhere else because it'll affect with the spawns. But once you place that water source down, you should start to see bubbles start to rise up. Those bubbles are an indicator that you placed your water source correctly. If you do not see bubbles, that means that you have likely misplaced your water bucket. Now, the edges are very simple, but the middle ones here are kind of tricky. So just get as close as you can, place down your water source, and you should start to see bubbles. If you don't see them right away, just wait a couple of seconds for them to start showing up. Sometimes they take a little while to start, but once you have that placed down, you should start seeing bubbles rise up from each of these spots. Again, I need to reiterate, it's very, very, very important that you don't accidentally place this on the mycelium blocks. These scaffolding that we have right here is basically tricking the game into thinking it's a solid block. They look hollow, but in the game's code, they're actually a solid block. So as you can see underneath here, water's not actually flowing underneath anything. So there's only water on top of all this scaffolding, and then there's water on these soul sand blocks. And these soul sand bubbles are basically going to catch all of our mooshrooms when they spawn, lift them up, then they'll be caught into the water stream where they can't sink back down. And that is how we lure and gather all of our mobs into our Trident kill chamber. So again, once you're done here, just do a quick perusing over everything. Make sure you've got everything. It looks like I missed one just about right here. You fill that in, place down a water bucket right on top of it, and it will fire right up with those bubbles. Just do a quick cursory glance. If you miss one, it's not the end of the world, but just try to get as many as you can so that you can have optimum spawn and pushing rates for all of your mobs down into this Trident chute. Now, at this point, you are done with the main chute here. All you need to do in order to get this finally hooked up is throw in a Trident. You don't need any type of special enchantments on this because mooshrooms are super duper weak, and we're not really trying to grind them out because their spawn rates are not going to be super fantastic. But just go ahead and turn this on, make sure everything's working, and then just verify that you're actually having a mob spawn up there. If you have the distance right, it might take a couple of seconds, but you should see mushrooms. Oop, there's one right over the edge right there. You should see them start to spawn and they will fall right down. Now, I will cover a little bit later how we are going to get them to actually survive so they fall down into the Trident Killer. But for now, we are just testing that our mushrooms are actually spawning and bringing things in. If you notice that mushrooms are not spawning, then it is most likely that you have extended the height outside of your spawn sphere. So go back earlier in the video, get the distances right, double, triple check everything. The easiest thing to do if you have a block or two off of distance is just raise up the Trident Killer a couple of blocks. It's very simple to build that rather than the entire top layer of your farm. But once you have verified that mushrooms are spawning and falling down in here, we're going to build the first of our sugarcane modules. And I'm going to show you how to build one, and it's basically just repeating it on the other side here. So go ahead and extend out from the side 7 blocks, and then we're going to extend out another 6 blocks as shown here. And then we're going to wall this off. So come over here to the side. We're going to want to knock out these temporary blocks, place down some buttons right down here. And then you're going to, again, fill in this entire side with some solid blocks. Sandstone's a great choice here, as usual, but feel free to use really kind of whatever block you want. On the edges here, you're going to want to lay down mud or dirt or any type of block that sugarcane can spawn on. So dirt or mud or mangrove roots, really whichever one you'd prefer. And then you're going to come over here to the back and you're going to drop down 2 buckets of water, and you should see that water flow all the way to the center of the farm and neatly drop all of our items down in there. Next, we're going to build the outer wall, and as you can see here, this is where our sugarcane is ultimately going to sit. Just do a quick check to make sure that you can actually get things in there. But you're going to extend up 1 block as shown here, and then you're going to grab yourself some pistons and then just line each of these outer edges here with pistons, and then make sure you fill in this is a solid block so that our sugarcane does not fall down into the abyss instead of in the middle of our farm. So you're going to repeat that pattern here on both sides. If it's easier for you to start with this kind of outer edge wall, go ahead and do that. You're going to come over here to the back, do the exact same thing, and then fill that up an additional layer here on the back. And then once that's in place, go ahead and line all of this with your pistons. Now on the corners here, you're going to want to build up so that the sugarcane that you're generating gets pushed in. And then you should have something that looks a little like this, which then you can now fill in with any of the spare sugarcane that you have. If you don't have enough sugarcane, don't worry. You can start with just 1 piece of sugarcane and then kind of grow things out a little slowly. Coming on here to the back of the farm, we need to wire all of this up. So we're going to use a daylight sensor in alternating modes in order to achieve that. Now, sugarcane grows about 1 height every 18 minutes on average, and a Minecraft day is about 20 minutes. So between 2 daylight sensors, we should be able to tick this farm twice a day and harvest all the sugarcane we have. And to achieve that, we're going to extend out a back platform here, 6 blocks, a 2x3 platform, place down 2 comparators feeding into 2 observers with the dot facing into the center of the farm, and then 2 daylight sensors, 1 on night, 1 on day. And then you're going to grab a redstone dust, and we're going to fill in all of this area on here on top of all of these pistons. And then we're going to do the same on this side. And then in this spot, immediately after the observers that we have, you're going to place down repeaters. And those repeaters are just going to be on the 0 or 1 tick, whichever you prefer to call it. So you're going to place that down here and here. Now, just to be doubly certain that our repeaters extend all the way, come over here to each of the sides, and over kind of this height difference right here, place down a repeater, and then you're going to place dust here, dust here, dust here, dust here, and then knock out the single piece of redstone dust on that lastmost piston. So you see here, because this is all connected, the signal is looping back on of itself. But if you knock that piece of redstone dust out right there, then when you tick this on and off, the farm will push all of your sugarcane out. It's very, very important that you do not have a piece of redstone dust on that lastmost piece of piston. Otherwise, when this toggles on and off, you basically don't have a farm. So the setup we have here is just one module. You have the opportunity with this farm to enhance your sugarcane rates by building stacks of these modules on top of one another all the way up to the top of the farm, and additionally doing this on both the east-west or north-south face, depending upon how you have this oriented. Stacking these modules is also incredibly simple. You can reutilize the exact same daylight sensors. You can just build yourself a glass tower, as I have shown here, going up every layer, and that will allow you to reutilize a lot of the more expensive redstone components without needing to reuse absolutely everything. Now, there's two ways that you can run this farm. The first is to just get cooked meat, and that is done by simply placing a lava blade on top of the topmost layer of your sugarcane. This is a great way to run the farm if you're just after steak and you don't really care about the sugarcane component. However, if you are more interested in having books, you're going to want to place a couple of changes in order to both maximize your rates and get that looting 3 enchantment. Additionally, if you do choose to put a lava blade in order to cook all the steak from the mushrooms, you're going to want to make sure that you place it above where all of your sugarcane drop, regardless of how many levels you have of sugarcane stacked. Because if you have it below, all of your sugarcane will get burned up and incinerated, and you won't have any rates coming out of this farm. Now, if you want to exploit the looting 3 enchantment and get as much maximum rates as possible, go above each of these buttons that you have right here, right a layer or two above where your sugarcane is going to drop in, and place down a bucket of water there in the corner so that fills that in. This will basically act as a mattress pad for all of our mushrooms, and it will prevent them from dying as soon as they hit this Trident Killer that we have right here. And instead, they will be killed by the Trident, which means that we will get significantly more steak and significantly more leather coming out of this farm. And as long as the player that threw the Trident is logged in and you have a looting 3 sword on you, you're going to get roughly 1,700 pieces of uncooked beef, around 900 pieces of leather per hour. And then for each of the sugarcane modules, you're going to be looking at 72 pieces of sugarcane, or just slightly over a stack per hour per module. And because you are getting such good rates, you then will be able to convert all that sugarcane and leather into paper and books. So that's going to be it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching. I super duper appreciate you guys watching this video. If you like this video, like the rates that you get, and want to see more creative farms, make sure you like the video, and also please consider subscribing, as it really does help me, helps the channel, and make sure that I am focused on the types of farms that you guys want to see. But that's the end of this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.